Well, sometimes it does take a good 5 to 6 seconds before it starts really recording. Welcome back, you game changers and people just set on creating the life you want to live. This is the Maturity Project. I am your host, Sir Chad Broshears. For those that know, you know. Chad Broshears to everybody else. Today's conversation on the Maturity Project is going to be establishing grace. We're all going to be turning the soil. Video yesterday I talked about you capturing the elusive fox, you study people, you understand specific traits about like yourself, and you're starting to get to understand the good and the ugly, the desirable and the undesirable about yourself, how you get hijacked, things like that. That was on the previous episode. And I got to tell you, something that, and I constantly am building into this. This is the whole thing is just based off of my Maturity Project that I'm developing, and that all that is just it's the way that I've seen that the way that I have lived life. 44 years. I've got my earliest memories are always about putting myself in somebody else's shoes or perspective and trying to understand things from multiple directions. Just been the way that I have been my entire life. So now this program has come about that helps people categoricalize understandings of ways of living and areas of maturity so that we can each attribute our needs where they truly are versus going after needs that aren't truly it, but they seem like it because we're just familiar with that need feeling a certain way. Well, when you're on that or when you're in that pursuit of change, and by the way, when I say turning the soil, once upon a time, and still to this day, the practices of using horse and cow manure for soil is common. And the reason for that is that it's through the digestive tract and the digestion of these things that these animals eat. That turns into growth opportunity. It turns into something that enriches the soil, and the soil be the foundation. So when we're turning the soil, it's not always pretty. I don't know about you guys, but if you've ever been around horse and cows and you smell cow shit or horse shit, it's not the most pleasant thing in the world, but although I have smelled worse, I grew up with brothers. But the point of it is that, it's not the worst smell in the world, but it's not the most pleasant either. But if you understood what the value of that stinky stuff is, it turns into what you're going to consume at some point in time. But it itself is not. It's just the nourishment of it. And it's turning the soil. What they do is they put this stuff down and they start turning the soil with, back in the day, they do a plow strapped to a horse or to a cow or ox or something. And then they just drag the fields, turn the soil so that whenever these plants are in there, they've got the right kind of nourishment so that it would help the next generation of crop grow. Same thing with fish leavings and things like that, or skeletons and guts and stuff like that. Once it starts rotting, it's pretty nasty. It's gross. It smells bad. But its benefit is significant for us because it enriches the soil. When you're going through the challenges you have in life, there's going to be some pretty fucking ugly spots. There's going to be some pretty nasty experiences. There's going to be things that you will need to just tolerate. But here's the thing. You can go a step beyond tolerating. You can go to a whole nother level, which is how do you turn what you're going through into a utility for your opportunity for growth? So you turn the soil, right? You go through some shitty stuff. Here's the thing about the soil. The shitty stuff is like, whenever I break down, let's say if I'm crying in a conversation, like I'm going through something emotional and it's just hitting me really hard, and I'm truly being honest about it and I'm working my way through it, but it's got me so emotional that it has this massive benefit for me. Because I'm having to put myself through an emotional state I would not normally face. It is obvious and excited and in front of me, and if I put my effort into it, I can change things because of it. I can develop myself there. I can grow. So, turning the soil is taking that negative, and you're turning it into something beneficial for you. As we grow through life, you're going to have a lot of opportunities for this to feel better about yourself when you face these things. But you're not typically going to feel good about yourself when you're going through it. It's facing it. It's as simple, by the way. I know it doesn't sound like it, but from my experience in life, and I face shit all the time. I face the hardships. I face whatever. Even though I want to run, even though I want to get away from it, even though I'm like, you know what, I don't want to deal with this, you still have to face it, and I'm not going to avoid it, and I'm going to do the best that I can to exceed surviving it. I'm going to do everything I can to thrive through it. But damn it, it's not easy. It's easier to just try to survive through it, take a break, and all of that. But my thing is, I have a disability, and I've never shared this with you guys. But I do have a disability. I haven't shared it with really anybody. And even the people that are closest to me would be surprised to find out that I do have this disability. And it's a disability to be complacent. Though I have got to develop. I have the disability to sit still and just take a break. If I'm going to procrastinate, the only thing I'm procrastinating on is a break, a vacation. I'll procrastinate on that. But whatever's going to move me forward towards my goals, I'm not procrastinating. Just not. It's the same again as I started there with getting into a cold shower. Now, I'm not saying take a complete cold shower for, 3 to 7 minutes or whatever. But when you first turn the water on, get under it. Now, my water heater takes about 30 to 40 seconds before I really start to feel the water start to turn warmer. But I got to tell you, that's a long time whenever you don't really want to be cold. But I've made this a daily thing. I've made this you're getting in the shower, I don't care if it's 2-3 times a day, you're going to get under the cold water first. If you want the reward of the warm water, you're going through the hardship of the cold. And you're going to grow the hell up. Now, with that, by the way, an interesting effect that came out of it, I've owned my home, just putting here, mental or emotional, and forcing myself into it, temperature, which, whatever. So I've owned my house since 2017. It's now 2024. I have used my pool more in the last 2 months than I have used it for the entire time I've owned the house. Actually, probably about 4 times more. And I don't even hesitate getting in. The reason why I didn't like using it before is because it's cold. And like, how sad is that, right? It's cold. But that's how comfortable I had gotten. And I denied the fact I bought the house because in part it has a pool. Because I took on this practice on a daily basis, getting myself in front of putting myself into that shower, I don't even take any time getting in the pool. Just immediate. Jump right in. Walk right in. Whatever. I'm just in. Immediately. And it's about 3 seconds, 4 seconds, and I'm like, all right, I'm good. Actually, same effect in the shower. 3 seconds, 4 seconds, and I'm good. Good thing there's no cameras in there, right? Easy now, you people that want the OnlyFans stuff. Come on now. Perverts. Anyway, so anyway, take on what you need to take on. So you're going to have to turn the soil. You're going to have to go through the things that make you look ugly or it's unpleasant, undesirable. But the beautiful thing about it is that you can go through what I call having grace. Now, grace has patience. Grace has the willingness to hear somebody else from where they're at, even when what they're doing or what they say could be against you, and still being true to that moment. As an example, recently I parted ways with the company I was working with. Great company, amazing people, just really, it was a wonderful experience for me. And we parted ways. And it was a bit of a surprise in that parting. It wasn't really a lot leading up to it. It's just, one day we had lunch, talked about, like, hey, we got to have a serious conversation. Next day, you're done. We're going to go another route. And, they made the decisions they made because they made them. From lunch until the next day, I had plenty of time to spend myself up. I had plenty of time to think about how I had attachments to the long term for this thing, or working with this company, like all the things associated with that particular agreement that I had with them. And I had plenty of time to get spun up into it and to get upset about it and start making them wrong. And all of the challenges that go into that. But here's the thing. Giving in to that thought and working my way into how they're wrong, or like somebody's wrong in this, and that some sort of bad things have happened, and the accumulation of how personally I feel like I was failed, or they failed, or whatever, or I failed, that whatever it is, all of that stuff, what it is there's a pit of despair, and what's on the slopes of that despair is going to be all of those. Stop recording there. Looks like it had an interruption. What you're going to have to do with that pit of despair, though, is if you give into that, you give into the ideas. Somebody says what they did to you is wrong. You start looking for all the instances where you were right and they were wrong. Stuff like that. What happens is that starts pulling you into this pit. It's justifiable enough for you to say, screw this, screw that, all of this, and then put yourself in more of a victim position. The drawback to being a victim in this is that what happens is that for that situation, you have to crawl out of that pit. You have to take every bit of energy, well, not every bit of energy, you have to use a specific amount of energy to get back to baseline before you can do something to get yourself away from the problem or get yourself through the problem. That's more of the survival side. You'll sink into it which is giving in to all the justifiable stuff. Your support system's going to want to do it. My support system did too. There's the I'm so sorry, they're wrong for doing it, what a shitty thing, bad company, blah, blah, blah. All the stuff that my support system wanted to come in on. Not that I was enrolling them in any of that. It's just they care, and that's a demonstration of care. But the drawback to it is by giving into those thoughts, pulled me into that pit of despair. Would have pulled me into the pit of despair, and it would have made it that much harder before I could actually break free and do something else with my life, move on, develop into what I need to develop into. To really be able to progress, I would have been denied this at the functional level I currently have it at, because I would be stuck. I would be stuck in that pit of despair first. And it would have cost me resources, energy, effort, emotion, those things. It would have cost me all of that. Not to mention the potential damage to the reputations to other people involved, including myself, with the parties involved, the direct parties, myself and the company, or my relationship with the people that are in my life. I'm going to reinforce that's the kind of way you're supposed to handle me during hardship. Encourage me into the pit of despair. They're not doing it on purpose, by the way. It's a path, it's a road to hell they don't realize they're putting you on, because despair is ugly and it's hard and it's challenging, and it's done by way of empathy. They give a shit usually. They just don't realize what the consequences of that enrollment is. So I'd have to crawl out of that to the level necessary to get to, I get it now, and I can do something with this, and now I can start moving forward. This is taking more time for me to lace up my shoes, put on my jogging pants, get everything set up in the house or wherever, to get to even to the starting line, where I could just be at the starting line. Hey, something changed. Immediately go to the start of the line. Get started. But instead, I'd have to start dealing with that pit of despair. So what did I do to help prevent that? Is I gave myself grace. And grace is something that you earn. It's an attribute. It's a reward you give yourself because you fucking developed yourself. You've been working on yourself to get there. Grace is what is your winning attribute because of the effort you put yourself into, the effort to develop yourself. You're now able to function with grace. Grace is it's what shows up when you can still be a human being and not be hijacked by the frustrations of that moment. Grace is a beautiful thing because people that are graceful are mesmerizing. And the reason why they're mesmerizing is because other people realize that what you're going through or what's happening at that moment is challenging. And you don't seem to let the challenge affect you negatively. You seem so ready to be able to take action. That's a gift from grace. You got to work on developing yourself so that you can have those gifts from grace. So what I did is I said, things cannot change from this point forward with you and I, the company and myself. The decisions have been made. The impressions have been imprinted. Who I am right now with what has just happened, I can look at it and say, You have given me so much. I've earned a paycheck. I've learned from the skills that I've developed and the things that I've created with the company and our partnering. I have learned significant things that I take with me. I'm not locking this behind a door of shame or frustration or stress. I'm going to let it free roam in my life. That I sat with people that are up to something. I learned through this, through the good and the bad, or the desirable and the undesirable. I've learned through all of it that I've become a better person. That I've become a better person measured by the ability to take on life's challenges. I can sit with that and say, thank you so much for the opportunity. And I appreciate the time that we've had together. I have no further questions. But I appreciate it all. Versus losing your mind, losing your cool, and then burning bridges, all to satisfy an insecurity that you're speaking through. Grace was a beautiful thing to prevent me from actually breaking myself down and falling into a pit of despair. So when you turn the soil, you're gonna have some of the ugly, some of the shit of your life that turns up. It's actually also some of the shit of your personality, some of the shit of the characteristics and traits that you need to trim off or mature in order to reach the goals that you have. And it's telling you then and there that's what you need to do. And you got to take that and turn it back into the soil. Make it more motivating than defeating. But that's up to you. You have to be the one to decide what to do with it. So for me, I choose to turn it back into the soil because the person that I'm creating myself to be and the person that I currently am requires a very big, solid foundation. Because what I'm taking on in life is more than paying bills and just raising a family. It is much bigger than that. I'm called into something that I'm living into. That needs such an enormous foundation, such a solid, enormous foundation. It needs it. And if it doesn't have it, then I'm going to lose everything over time because it'll all fall apart. It's a horrible feeling to create something and lose it. It's an even worse feeling to create something and never want to face it again because it was too painful when you lost it. And you live the rest of your life in the shadows of cowardice because you didn't learn through the process. Have some grace when you go through these things. Now, you really do. You should subscribe to the channel, and here's why. I do put out videos and content on a regular basis. Doing things like this, putting it into your daily activities, listening to something, even if it's just in the background, gives you opportunities that where you did not have them prior, because the intentions here are for insights. It's to give you inside views, ways to think your way through things so that you can come up with a unique solution that you're more likely to own than advice somebody who doesn't know you has. Because they give you advice, who says that fits your situation? But if I give you some insights, they can inspire thinking that takes you to another place. I am not going to guide you there. I'm just going to talk to you about the insights that I have and that the people have shared with me. And to open up some parameters so that you can make some mistakes and you can win and you can make some victories. This life really is, there's no one right way to do life, by the way. There's no playbook for this either. There's just the playbooks that people create, but there's not a playbook that's right for everybody in the world. Whee, that's some noise coming from my engine. Whee. It's like playing chess there, and that was all, Anyway, so your life, your control. You make up your mind what you want to do with it and how you want to do it. I promise you that what I want is to just give you some insight so that you can potentially make changes that work for you. To give you the inspiration that yes, even though what I'm saying may not make sense right now, listen to the way that I think. Listen to the way that I process information. Try the exercises that I'm giving you. Think with the way that you see me thinking. the way you're witnessing me thinking, the way that you're following the way that I talk, because that's actually giving you access to the way that I think. I'm not saying the way that I think is the best in the world. It is the best for me. It's what I have. And it's what I work on every day, all day, is to be able to be better, to develop myself more to meet the needs my goals say that I need to have if I wish to accomplish those goals. So join with me in this, because it's a beautiful thing, man. You got to be up to something. You can either be up to paying bills and just passing your time and waiting to die, or you can pay your bills, pass some time, but don't wait to die. Let's actually work on living. And a lot of that living, you do better when you really start working on yourself, because then you can be more present to the situations, because you've really worked your way through things that you didn't want to bother with that distract you. So, all right, that's it for today. This is the Maturity Project. I am your host, Chad Everett Broshears, or Sir Chad Everett Broshears to some. If you know, you know. This is a Maturity Project. Share this video with people in your life that you wish to break the ice with. Start a conversation that's meaningful. Take it someplace. We've got this life, man. I'd really like that you join in. Share some of the stuff you're getting out of this. Put it in the comment section. Just throw it out there. It's other people will appreciate it when they read it. I don't have all the answers, but damn it, I'm curious. One of my greatest strengths. I'm so fucking curious. But I can definitely tell you this. The world's calling for us. But we really need to work on ourselves before we answer that call. Because the path to hell is paved with good intentions. And I got to tell you, my man, my ladies, that path is filled with good intentions, but it's a super highway to hell. Right now, that seems to be what everyone's creating. Super highway to hell. All right. Well, until next time. Like and subscribe to the channel. Let's get this thing continuing to move. Liking it actually helps with the algorithm. Take a second, hit that little like button. And if you haven't subscribed already, subscribe. If you have somebody in your life that really does need to make some changes, or you'd like to see some changes made for because they seem to constantly be stuck in that pit of despair, suggest this video to them. Watch it with them. That'll help make sure that they are watching it. Because I don't know about you, but when somebody sends me a YouTube video, I've had to put effort into making sure I watch it. Because often I'm like, thank you for sharing, I'll get to it when I can, but when I can never shows up unless I do it right then and there. And a lot of times I don't always have that privilege, but I'm like, God dang it, man. So I got to remember to do it as soon as I get the next 3 minutes, but it's taking effort. So if you want to be able to get past that, watch it with them. Because it's more natural to procrastinate. And let's face it, you're going to procrastinate one way or another. I would rather procrastinate on the breaks and vacation than about the work that I need to do in order to get myself and my family where I want us all to be. In the world, really, because I do want to make a difference. In 8 different areas of maturity, I'm convinced we'll actually make a difference if we all develop in it. So until next time, I'm your host again, Chad Everett Broshears. Share the video. All right, guys. I'll see you soon. Let's get up to it. Let's get up to it together. Let's go.